First one. And there you go.
Willie, put your mic on mute. Hey everybody, how you guys doing? I'm getting ready to start my live. I'm just letting a couple of more people come in. How you doing, Tips World? Thank you for coming into my chat. Just give me 1 second. Willie, put your mic on mute.
Let's see. Just hit the mic?
Yeah. Okay, he got his mic on mute. Okay, I'm just allowing a couple of more people to come in. Just give me some time here. Okay, we're gonna start my live. Thank you guys for all tuning in. I got a very special guest on my live today. We're gonna start my live. Oh, let me turn this down a little bit. I got a very special guest on my live. I just want to thank everybody for joining my live right now. Tip, I thank you. Sometimes it only takes one person to join the live because God got a really good live for you guys tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Please hit the like button and the subscribe button. I'm going to introduce a very special guest, a guy that I've been knowing for quite a while. As everybody know, I have a brother in prison that's doing 35 to life, and finding some good counsel to help my brother get out of prison. I ran into a gentleman that was referred to a friend to help my brother, because you know you can run into a lot of people and they're really not the best counsel for my brother, because my brother been in prison a long time. He's doing 35 years to life without the possibility of parole, and my parents has invested a lot of money in trying to get my brother out of prison. So somebody introduced me to the gentleman that I'm going to introduce you to, which is some of the best counsel that my brother could possibly have. This gentleman was also had a sentence in prison, but got himself out of prison, and he began to help my brother and work on his case. And this gentleman is, I'm telling you, as you hear his testimony, you will see what I'm talking about. He's a very dynamic man, very gifted in the field of helping people get out of prison. I have to shut that door, I'm sorry. Helping people get out of prison. If you just hear his testimony alone will make room for his gift of what he's doing now, helping other people get out of prison. So I'm getting ready to introduce Willie right now. Willie, take the mute off your mic, and I'm gonna let you give your own introduction.
Okay. My name is Willie. I'm 68 years of age. I was formerly incarcerated in the California prison system for 33 consecutive years on a life term. I committed a robbery, a kidnap, and an attempted murder, which took me to prison. I educated myself while in prison. Actually, my education began while I was in the county jail, Riverside County Jail, in 1983. I had a vision while in the county jail. In that vision, voice spoke to me as powerful and as clear as my voice can be heard today. The voice told me one day as I was in prayer and in a trance, the voice said, "Have faith and you will be exonerated." I understood that to mean that I had to become the very best of my human potential. With God's guidance, I would do all those things necessary to become what God willed that I be, and that in becoming what God willed that I be, God would bring me out of prison, and God would give me a testimony, and God would give me the ability while in prison to reach back into prison to help those that I shared those conditions and environment with. I met a number of people during that time. One of the people I met was Delane's brother, Darren. I met him in 2006. Only met him for a brief period. And I didn't get to know very much about him at that time. I didn't get to know that much about him until I got out of prison approximately a year ago when I met Delane. She shared with me that Darren is her brother, that Darren was in prison on a life term, that Darren had been in prison since, wow, New Year's Day, 1986. And she showed me a picture of him in the Riverside Press Enterprise. A brash-faced 20-year-old, a young person, a kid. I saw the youth of the person that I had saw in Corcoran, which is why I met Darren. I saw the youth in this face. And I saw empathy. I had compassion. And I knew then that we share similar circumstances. He had a family outside of prison who wanted him out of prison. I had a family outside of prison who wanted me out of prison. And I knew that I had to reach back inside with the skill that God allowed me to acquire while in prison to try and help him. I've helped a number of people. While incarcerated, I litigated in all of the courts in this land, from the United States Supreme Court, United States Court of Appeal for the Ninth Circuit, all the United States District Courts in California, the California Supreme Court, and all of the California Courts of Appeal, and a number of the California Superior Courts.
Okay, Willie, what was you in prison for? What was your charges, and how did you get yourself out of prison?
Well, actually, I indicated that early on that I went to prison for robbery, kidnap, and attempted murder. I got myself out of prison. Actually, let me rephrase that. God allowed me to get out of prison. God showed me what I needed to do to get out of prison. I needed to become the best of my human potential. I educated myself. I became a transformed person, the person who went to prison 40 plus years ago. When I went to prison 40 plus years ago, that person is not the person who came out of prison. I was 27 years old. Today I am 68. I've been out of prison 8 years. October 27th will be 8 years since I've been out of prison. What did I do? I changed. I became a spiritual person. I came to realize that I'm a spiritual being. I humbled myself. I committed myself to giving myself to God, to God's Spirit, to the Christ in me, to becoming transformed and to becoming a better person, a person who's willing to do the right thing, live the truth. And that's what I do today. I refuse to do anything that does not honor God, that does not glorify God, that does not serve a purpose, a good purpose.
Okay, and while you was in prison, just tell us how you got the skills to get your own self out of prison.
Well, actually, I had to go through the California Board of Parole hearings. Again, I educated myself. I read every book that you could practically read. I studied law, but I didn't limit myself to law. I studied criminal law. I studied civil law. I did probate law. I did everything. But I never stopped doubting. I never stopped believing, I never doubted. I never stopped believing. I never doubted that I would get out of prison. What I understood when I had the vision while in the county jail is that I had to be committed to becoming what God willed that I be. And it couldn't be what I wanted, but it had to be what God wanted. And I had to understand that. I am a paralegal. However, my skill exceeds that of most, if not practically all paralegals. As I just indicated, I've litigated in every court across this country successfully. You can't do that unless you study, unless you apply yourself. I didn't take days off. For the 33 years that I was incarcerated, I probably took 10 days off. Saturdays and Sundays I worked. And by working, I mean I read something, I wrote something, I studied something. I understood that you have to understand the language. You have to understand the facts, how to apply the law to the facts of the case. I understood that you have to do that, and that's what I set out to do. It took me about 10, maybe 11 years before I actually came to the realization that I could be very good at this. And I say that with humility. But I understood that I could be good at it after about 10 years because things came to me rather easily once I began to apply myself. You have to read, you have to study, you have to want it. I didn't do anything else. Law and studying and becoming the best of my human ability was what I was committed to. That's how I was able to do God's will. And it was God's will that got me out of prison. I didn't get myself out of prison. Just doing God's will is what got me out of prison. And God's will was that I become the person that I am today, that I become transformed, that I become something and someone that would serve his good purpose.
Okay, Willie. And so when you was in prison, some of the skills that you're saying that you learned, that you was able to, God used you to able to get yourself out. Could you walk us through how you was able to get yourself out and what was some of the skills that you had to get familiar with and some of the things that you did to help yourself get out of prison?
Well, you go to court in a criminal trial. You're supposed to be tried by a jury of your peers, 12 people. They hear the facts of your case. They hear the facts of the prosecutor's case. They make a decision based upon those facts, whether they think you are guilty or innocent. I was guilty. So I wasn't going to get out by changing anyone's minds about the facts of my case. I tried that for a very long time. But ultimately, after about 15 years, I understood that that wasn't what God wanted me to do. I had to get out through the California Board of Parole hearings. To get out of prison through the California Board of Parole hearings, you have to be found to no longer pose what they call an unreasonable risk to public safety. In essence, you have to become rehabilitated. There's a litany of things you have to do, self-help courses that you have to take. You have to gain what is called insight. You have to take responsibility, and you have to demonstrate remorse. Insight is having the ability to talk about your life as a young person, the things that you did that brought you to a place where you could actually commit a crime that would take you to prison for life, and be able to be honest about what your intentions were when you committed the crime. For example, I committed a robbery. Of course, I wanted money, but I was greedy. I didn't want to work for it. I wanted to take other people's property and their money. That's just the reality of it. I didn't want to go to prison when I committed the robbery. So I kidnapped the person and I took him to an isolated place. Now, I knew that if I left that person alive, that person would be able to identify me and call the police and send me to prison. So I tried to kill him. I tried to kill him so that he wouldn't be able to identify me. I value my freedom more than I did his life. That made me a callous, cruel, insensitive, and uncaring person. I had to acknowledge that. I had to come to that reality. That's sometimes difficult for a person who's in prison to say that, for a person who has committed crime to say that. But that's a process you have to go through. That's called insight. And you have to demonstrate remorse. You have to be able to show that not only do you know why you did it, not only can you say what your intentions were, but that you are genuinely ashamed of what you did, that you would never do anything like that again, that you want to do everything you can within your power to make amends for that. And my being out, I know there are some people who are in prison and they deserve to be in prison. We're safer because many of those people are in prison. We're safer in society because many of those people are in prison. But there are people who are in prison who committed heinous crimes 25, 30, 40 years ago, who have actually changed, who have been transformed, who deserve a chance to get out. And then there are those who are in prison who didn't commit the crimes that they went to prison for. Whether they committed those crimes or whether they didn't commit those crimes. If they've been there 30 or 35 years and they've been changed, they've been transformed, they have become rehabilitated, those individuals, I believe, deserve to get out of prison. So to the extent that I have the ability to do so, I feel an obligation because I was there for 33 years. I know what those conditions are like. They're inhumane. Prison is not a good life. Anyone who's been there will tell you that. Anyone who's been there for 30 or 40 years, they suffer. They suffer an unforgivable loss.
Okay, Willie, and how did you educate it? What did you have to learn, and how did you help other inmates? But you told me you had to educate yourself in prison. You didn't know, you had to learn how to type on different type of typewriters. Tell us how you educated. Tell us how you helped other inmates in prison as well too. But give us a story while you in prison.
Well, when I graduated high school, but I wasn't the best of students. I was an athlete back in my youth, and so I got passed along. I had ability, but I didn't use them. I had athletic ability, and I used that, and so I got passed along. I went to 1 year of RCC, junior college, prior to prison, but I didn't have any clerical skill or any managerial skill. I didn't have typing skill when I went to prison. I went to prison at 23. That was the first time. I went to prison 2 times. The second time I went to prison at 27. I didn't know how to type, but I knew when I had that vision while in the county jail, and the word spoke to me as clearly as my words are being spoken to you today, saying you have faith, you will be exonerated. I understood that to mean, as I said earlier, become the very best of your human potential, the very best of your ability. I didn't know how to type, but I told my family, send me a typewriter. I've got to learn to type. I've got to learn to type because I've got to educate myself while I'm here. I'm going to get out of here, but I'm going to get out of here because of what I do. Everything I did was directed to getting myself out of prison, getting myself ready to get out of prison. Again, I read probably 500 books or more. I would encourage people on the prison yards every day, in front of the prison cell every day. If you want to help yourself, if you want to better yourself, meet me in the law library. I didn't go to the prison yard very often. And when I did, was just to walk and talk to people, to try and inform them, to try and encourage them. But I had a design format. I had a design regimen that I would adhere to. I got up early every morning. My breakfast was exercise. And after that, I began my study. But it was structured study. Law was at the top. And I began to also to go in, to meditate, to open up those inner doors, the inner doors to spirit. And was opening those inner doors to spirit whereby I became truly empowered because I connected with the Spirit of God in me, the Christ in me. I would encourage people to do that. But I found that so many young people didn't have the discipline, didn't have the will, didn't have the focus, didn't have the determination. It takes discipline and it takes commitment. It takes will. It takes a love of life. It takes a love of family. It takes a love of God to want to get out of prison. I had those things and I would try and impart that to other people. To the best that I could, I did on a daily basis.
Okay. And so when you said you had to take them parts, you had to apply them to getting yourself out. So tell us, because you were telling me that you helped a lot of people. It was a lot going on. Tell us some of the things that you did for prisoners that was in there that you helped them with their cases as well too.
Well, I there are people who I got out through resentencing or got their convictions reversed. Those people are many, but there are two people who come to mind. They're still in prison, and I believe that they're innocent. And those are the two people that I'm most committed to trying to help. One of the person's name is David. He's incarcerated in Chuckawalla Valley State Prison. He came out of Orange County. He is a special ed student in school. If you engage him, you can see that he has special needs. And the people who, he has a life without the possibility of parole. He's been in prison now for about 17 years. He has life without the possibility of parole. If you talk to this person, you can't help but have compassion and empathy and sympathy for him. And so I've been committed to trying to help him. We have his case now on the Orange County District Attorney's desk right now, asking the District Attorney to recall his sentence. We have the District Attorney's ear. We're waiting to hear back from the District Attorney right now. There's another person, his name is James. He's in Corcoran State Prison. He's been in prison for 32 years. He was my neighbor in Corcoran.
And can you tell, and Willie, could you tell the story of how the gentleman that you're talking about now, how he ended up in prison and how you had helped him and how you had to look for the witness to help him in the case? Can you just give them, my viewers, a little insight on how you helped this man and how he got into prison? And let me give a little shout out. How you doing, Lakeisha Bass? Thank you guys for tuning into my channel. Linda Best, thank you for Tips World. You know I did say that. Jennifer, thank you for tuning in. And just keep that thought, Willie. And go ahead and tell that next part what I just asked you. How did you help him? And how did you get him to where he's at right now?
Well, I met James, as I said, in Corcoran. He was my neighbor. He asked me to, someone had informed him that I was the litigator in that environment. And so he asked me if I would read his trial record and take the facts from his record as if I was preparing an opening brief to see what his facts were. I did that. But we got separated. I got transferred. This is in 2006. I got transferred to Corcoran, to Calipatria. He got transferred to New Kern Valley State Prison. I paroled from Calipatria in 2015. 9 years later, I paroled. After I got out of prison, he asked someone in prison, a supervisor, an education supervisor, if they could locate me, if they could go into the computer and see what prison I was in. The educator did so, accommodated him. He came back and he told James, hey, Mr. Ruff is not in prison anymore. Mr. Ruff has got parole. So James reached out to me on Facebook, and I didn't answer because I was on parole. On parole, one of the conditions of my parole is you can't communicate with people who are in prison. I wasn't going to violate my parole. I was on parole for 3 years. I got out of prison, as I indicated, October 27, 2015. I got off of parole. I discharged parole November 26, 2018. The very day I discharged, I responded to James' message to me on Facebook. He asked me, could I help him? Could I continue to help him? I told him I could. I said, send me your record. He sent me his record electronically. I have his entire record in my email. And I went over the record again. And I had prepared his facts, so I knew the case. I had to go back and refamiliarize myself with the facts. But once I got the record and refamiliarized myself with the facts, there was a witness who was with him the night that he committed the crime he went to prison for. He went to prison for first-degree murder. He was at a nightclub called Mr. J in Orange County in Santa Ana. This was September 25th, 1991. He was walking with this woman. This woman identified herself as famous. He had his arm around this woman. He was walking with this woman in the parking lot, walking her to her vehicle, when a gentleman, for whatever reason, I don't know, and James didn't seem to know, walked up to James and punched James on the left side of his face, staggering James. The punch was so powerful, it caused James to push Famous to the ground. Back in that day, James was a drug dealer. James carried a firearm on him. He had a 9mm in his waistband. James was 6'1", 175 pounds. The person who punched him was 6'5", 265 pounds. In that moment, James felt he was going to lose his life if he didn't go into his waistband, take his firearm out, and start shooting this guy to back this guy up off of him. He shot the guy. He shot the guy the first time. The first shot was in the left hand, the palm of the hand. The guy tried to grab the firearm. He got shot in the palm of the hand. When he gets shot in the palm of his left hand, he spins away to his right, and he gets shot in the left flank. That's the left side. And he begins to try to run, and two more out of control shots hit him in the calf, one in the heel. And the guy stumbled, and he stumbled to his death. The woman who was with James got up and ran away. She was a witness to that event. Other people saw the aftermath of the shooting, but they didn't see the punching. They saw the shooting. They didn't see James get punched. Only Famous saw James get punched. And because Famous was unavailable for trial, she disappeared. He got convicted. Everyone else saw the shooting. They saw James shoot the man, and that's all they could say. They saw James shoot 4 shots. He got convicted of first-degree murder, but James said, look, man, this woman was with me. I'm innocent. I got punched. I would have never shot the guy had he not fired on me. James put out flyers. He took out ads. He spent money trying to locate this woman. It took him 17 years. He located her.
And how did he locate the lady, Willie? How was he able to locate the lady, even though he was in prison for the 17 years? How was he able to locate that lady?
He put an ad in the LA Sentinel. That's a newspaper. And she saw the ad in the LA Sentinel. This woman was an educator in LA. She wasn't, just a woman out in the streets or homeless, she was a reputable person. At that time, she was a young person, but she went on to become this reputable person. But she saw an article in the LA Sentinel. And in the LA Sentinel, James had his mother's contact information. She contacted James' mother and said, I'm the person that's been talked about in this article. His mother put her in contact with James. And she wrote to the court. Once she had contact with James, she wrote a letter to the court. It's called ex parte communication. The judge got in, he dismissed it. He wouldn't review it. He issued a minute order on it and said, this is ex parte communication. It's hearsay, so forth and so on. And I'm not going to even entertain it. So,
I have a question for you, Willie. Anybody in the chat, if you have any questions for Willie, Willie is a well-skilled paralegal, one of the best that you ever want to come encounter with. I mean, like I was telling everybody, my brother's been in prison for 37 years, and Willie has walked hand in side by me, helping my brother case. And some of these stories that Willie is telling you is stories that he is working on, people that he is getting out of prison. I don't want to lose Willie on train of thought, but people he is getting out of prison. And this is one young man that he's getting out of prison that he has worked on his case. This is Willie taking his skills from getting himself out of prison and also being replicable to get other people out of prison. So his testimonies of what he's telling you are very powerful. I mean, sometimes it's not where you need to be, it's not where you want to be, it's where you need to be. Willie is really speaking a lot of knowledge. This man could be a lawyer. He is so educated in the law. I have never met nobody as well educated as Willie in the law. So this story that he is telling you about, he's on the verge of getting this man out of prison. Okay, go right ahead, Willie. I hope I didn't lose your train of thought. And tell them the gentleman that he shot, who was he related to?
Well, I'm not sure I want to mention names, of the person who
No,
got.
no, I'm talking about he shot you told me that the guy that got shot was a brother of a sheriff for LA County.
Yeah, the man who got killed, his brother was a LA County sheriff deputy. And so that influenced the outcome of the trial, in my opinion, and in everyone else's opinion connected to the case, except the prosecution. But Famous, as I was indicating, contacted James after she contacted his mother. And she wrote to the court, and the court dismissed her letter as ex parte communication and hearsay. And so it was inadmissible. So James put me in contact with Famous, and I talked with Famous, and I had to prepare an affidavit for her based upon the entire experience. I prepared the affidavit, and so based upon her affidavit and everything else, all the other facts, I did a habeas petition to the California Superior Court. It was denied. California Court of Appeals, they denied it. California Supreme Court denied it. United States District Court, they denied the habeas petition, but they granted a certificate of appealability. Gave him a right to appeal to the Ninth Circuit. I prepared his opening brief to the Ninth Circuit, United States Court of Appeal for the Ninth Circuit. That court is the next court to the United States Supreme Court. I prepared the opening brief for that court. The Court of Appeal granted him an attorney. Asked the attorney to rebrief the case. When the Ninth Circuit or any United States Court of Appeal files an order appointing counsel in a habeas corpus petition appeal, that's a signal that they believe that you're entitled to relief. You're not entitled to counsel on habeas corpus. When you're appealing a denial of a habeas corpus, you're not entitled to counsel. So whenever the court appoints counsel, that says that they believe that you're entitled to relief. They're going to appoint counsel to protect your due process right. So they appointed counsel. Counsel rebriefed the issue. The Ninth Circuit decided the issue. The Ninth Circuit decided the issue, but they denied the appeal. They denied the appeal because they said that James shot the man 4 times in the back. But that's just factually inaccurate. So right now, where we are, we have already retained, James has retained an expert, a ballistics expert, a crime scene and shooting reconstructionist expert. He's going to reconstruct the crime scene, he's going to reconstruct the shooting, and he's going to be able to provide evidence at this stage that will show the Ninth Circuit that the man wasn't shot 4 times in the back. He was shot. Actually, the coroner told him that he was shot once in the hand and once in the side. The only 2 shots that were fired toward the man's back. And I'm not minimizing the fact that the man was killed. I need to state that somebody lost their life that night, and that's so unfortunate. Anytime anyone loses their life, that's unfortunate. But the facts are, the man was shot once in the heel and once in the calf, once in the side and once in the hand, left hand, in the palm of the hand. That means that his hand was facing James. He was within 2 or 3 feet of James when he was shot. He tried to grab the firearm from James' hand. That's when James shot him in the hand. And he tried to spin away once he got shot. He got shot in the left flank, as I indicating that he was trying to turn away and run. And the last 2 out of control shots, as I indicated, was to the calf and to the heel. So with that expert affidavit, his reported affidavit, we envision James getting a new hearing and getting out of prison. And it's going to take probably another 6 to 9 months. But getting out after 33 years on a life term, that's a victory. Because a life term can actually mean that you spend the rest of your life there.
And so with your help, you was able to file the papers that he need, where he had no hope. You was able to give him hope in his situation and be able to have the court look at his case differently. How you doing, Jersey Girl number 7 and Tracy 411? Thank you guys for tuning in.
Absolutely. I communicate with him every day. I communicated with him this morning. I communicate with him every day. I am the one who had to actually coordinate him being able to retain this expert. And so I coordinated that. James financed, he has, family who, financed it, but I have to communicate with all these people, make sure I'm getting the right person, because I know what has to be done.
And even though I know, Willie, that a lot of lawyers, that some of people have attained, you were able to help some cases that are right now that people are fighting right now. You're also was able to give a little bit of your legal knowledge because you are well educated in that area, what people don't know, to some attorneys as well too. Because when I was asking about you before I attained you to help my brother, a lot of people was telling me that you had really good skills. You knew what you're talking about. You got yourself out of prison. You became a paralegal to where you were able to get other people out of prison, and also you were able to assist some lawyers on different as well. You are so well rounded in knowledge of helping people.
Well, actually, I just recently, most recently, should I say, assisted two attorneys over in San Bernardino. This involved two nephews of mine, unfortunately, who had cases over there. And I got involved in those cases because these are my nephews. Uh, I learned the facts of their case. And I get involved because when I'm sitting in on the conversation, they always want me in their conversation with their attorneys. I'm listening to the attorney talk to them and what the attorney has to say. And if the attorney says something that's not correct or I disagree with it, I let them know that that's not correct or I disagree and here's why. And based upon my interjection and my letting them know what I know, what I'm aware of, they started talking directly to me as opposed to their client. And so they coordinate what they're doing for my nephew with me. Of course, there's one who's going to court on the 27th of this month. Uh, he's represented by the San Bernardino County Public Defender's Office. He's going to be filing a motion to dismiss. The motion to dismiss is based upon two United States Supreme Court decisions. Trumbretta Youngblood, that's the destruction of evidence that has an exculpatory value on the face of it. On the face of the evidence, it's potentially exculpatory, and they destroyed evidence. They destroyed video that showed the prosecutor and showed a deputy sheriff committing misconduct in the hallway, and so I instigated that motion. I know I observed the district attorney and the prosecutor committing misconduct. I brought it to the court's attention through a letter, but that video disappeared. It's a video. It's supposed to be a video inside of the San Bernardino County Superior Court. The hallways of the Superior Courts are on video. Inside of the Superior Court, they're on video. The video happened to disappear during this time period that this misconduct was committed, that they want to suppress, that they want to say didn't take place. And so I'm going to have to testify in that case. I'm testifying, but I'm also providing the attorney instruction on the motion. He sent the motion to me for me to read to make sure that the motion is done correctly.
Okay, and then you said, was there any going through that situation? I remember I was talking to you, and you was telling me that you were able to help your nephew with a hung jury due to your legal counseling.
Well, that was a separate. I have two nephews that are there. This was a separate one. They both came out of San Bernardino County, so this is a separate. This is a separate issue. This issue here was my nephew again. This one had a murder charge, and it's kind of complex. It's called provocative act murder. Provocative act murder involved. A provocative act murder is where the victim of a crime kills one of the perpetrators of the crime, and the co-defendants get that murder because one of the co-defendants did something that provoked the victim killing his co-defendant. There was three co-defendants. There was one victim. There was two victims. One of the victims killed one of the co-defendants. My nephew ended up with the murder, and so I assisted his attorney in getting a hung jury in his trial. The prosecutor threatened to retry him. They didn't retry him. What they wanted to do was negotiate a plea disposition. And so I helped to negotiate the best outcome in that regard.
And then, Willie, I have a question because I remember you were telling me about when you were in prison that there was a lot of stuff going on in prison that you were able to help inmates in prison while you were in there learning your craft. You were able to help other people. Inmates would come to you for different situations that you were able to help. Could you tell us some of the things that you were able to help while you were in prison, helping other inmates?
One of the situations that stands out most is I was in Salinas Valley. This was between 2000 2003. It's about early 2003. There was a fight this was Salinas Valley on the facility A. I was in one building. I was in cell 107. There was a fight that took place right out in front of the cell. A group of individuals were fighting. These individuals were black men from Northern California, East Palo Alto, were fighting among themselves. The persons, they called him Ken. He got punched and he fell and he hit his head on one of those steel tables and it knocked him out and it broke his neck. And no one knew that his neck was broke. When the COs responding to the emergency alarm came into the unit, spraying people, getting them proned out, this individual was laying on his back and they came in and grabbed him and said, get up, get up. And he told them, you're hurting me, man, you're hurting me. And they tried to snatch him up. And then they dropped him back down. The sergeant said, he's faking. And he said, man, they're hurting me. And so they called the MTA over to examine him. I heard the sergeant tell the MTA he's faking. The MTA said, no, I don't think he is. The MTA puts a neck brace on him and they have him eventually rolled out and take him over to the clinic. A doctor, I'm going to call this doctor's name. A doctor came in, Dr. Clark came into the clinic. They didn't roll him into a room, just left him in the hallway there. And someone was over there who actually I knew observed this and communicated it to me. The Dr. Clark came into the hallway. The guy was laying on the gurney. He raised his leg up and dropped his leg down, raised the other leg up, dropped him down, and he said he's okay. Take him back to his unit. They took him back to his housing unit. He had a broke neck. They took him back to his housing unit until early that morning, people came in. You could see early rushing into the building. For whatever reason, they found out something went wrong. They rushed into the building that morning about 6 o'clock, had cameras and people in suits, and they had medical people there to take him out of the cell, take him out to San Joaquin Valley Medical Center, and that's when he was diagnosed with a broke neck. And he stayed in his cell overnight with a broken neck. I ended up writing the paper to get the lieutenant fired, got the sergeant fired, and an internal affairs investigation, and his attorney, his family got an attorney. They used everything that I did, and they reached a settlement. But that's the one that I talk about most, because the captain who came to interview me from internal affairs, he came from Sacramento to interview me from internal affairs and asked me, why did you get involved? I said, because it's not right. It's not right what they did to him. I know what to do, and somebody who knows what to do has to get involved. And so that's why I got involved. And that's the case that stands out most to me. Now, something else, I was in Calipatria, and my mother, God rest her soul, was alive at this time, and she had a plumbing issue in her home. Her plumbing had backed up, it had destroyed the carpet and some walls in the interior of the home. She had homeowners insurance. The contractors who came to the house did their work, but in the end, they said that she owed them $8,000. They were trying to get $8,000 from her. I said, wait, send me the file. Send me everything that you have. And
so you're doing this, Willie, so you're doing all this litigation while you're in prison. You are crafting your gift as you're in prison to be able to help people. Am I right?
Well, yes. I mean, at that time I knew how to do it. We talking about I started in I went to the SHU. SHU is a security housing unit. I went into the SHU in 1987. That's when I began studying law, 1987. And I studied law and I litigated law from 87 to 2015, October 27, 2015 is when I got out of prison. So everything, I started litigating on CDCR 602. I would challenge everything that was wrong in the prison. I challenged it. I am responsible for there being no smoking in prison today. Many people don't know that. You can't smoke in prison today. I got a 602 granted in 1991. If anybody goes back and trace when did they discontinue smoking in the California prison system, you'll find they did it in 1991.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I started, I became good. I say this with humility, but I say it because I know it's the truth. I became good at it because God wanted me to be good at it. I needed to be good at this thing in order to do what God wanted me to do. I help people. It sent me to help people. I don't want people to be treated wrong and be treated unfairly. Someone has to help the downtrodden. And people who are incarcerated, many of them are downtrodden. They can't help themselves. Even people out here can't help themselves. I remember just telling the story about my mother. I remember her saying to people, see, I'm glad somebody knew what to do. Because she said, I sure didn't have $8,000 to give nobody.
Willie, Linda Best is asking a question. She said, did the CEOs mistreat you due to your knowledge of the law and helping other inmates?
They tried to sometimes. Early on they would, until they realized that if they did, that I would bring the law to bear on them. I sued and won civil claims for myself and for others. So what I would do during cell searches, they would do massive cell searches. They're going to search the entire prison yard. What I would do is I'd set out some of my legal successes on the table against COs. So if you come into the cell and you destroy my property, you do something you shouldn't do in here, I'm coming after you legally. You can do what you want to do. You can go wherever you want to go, but I'm gonna bring you to bear. I'm gonna bring the law to bear to you. But yeah, they would. But at some point they got beyond that. I probably didn't have that problem for the past 15 or 16 years of my time in prison.
Mm-hmm. So how did you end up in prison saving your mother's house?
Say that again?
How did you end up in prison helping your mother with her house while you were in prison? You were telling that story before I read that comment.
Well, no, she had a plumbing issue. Her property had to be refurbished. The carpet had to be torn out. Some of the walls had to be torn out, right? And so, and they charged her, like homeowners insurance was supposed to pay for that. And they did for the most part. But at the end, the contractor was trying to charge my mother $8,000. What I had to end up doing was writing a letter to the Riverside County District Attorney. I sent a copy to the State Contractors Licensing Board. I sent a copy to the homeowners insurance. And I charged the contractor with financial elder abuse. And the insurance company immediately stepped in and settled it. Said, wait a minute, we'll settle this. We'll pay for this. Your mother don't owe anything. And so that's how that was resolved.
And Willie, how many people have you worked on their case and helped them come home from prison? How many people are you working on their cases, and how many people have you brought home from prison due to your legal knowledge?
How many people have I actually assisted in getting out of prison? I would probably estimate about 20. I would have to go back and look at my file, but that's the best number I would say right now, about 20 that have actually gotten out.
That you, with legal knowledge, you actually gotten out.
Yes, I've assisted in getting out either through resentencing or getting conviction reversed, getting some time taken off. Yes, total of about 20 people. Again, the people who matter. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There are people. The people who I'm helping right now are the people who I think are innocent or have been done have had an injustice done to them. And there's only about 3 of those people. At some point, you know, I'm going to have to retire from this. So I can't do this permanently. I've been doing this for 40 years.
And are you knowledgeable about every state? Do you have knowledge about every state, not only people that's dealing with sentence in prison? Do you have knowledge about the law in other areas too, as well?
When you know law, you can litigate anywhere, or you do the research in that state. I just helped a woman probably about a year ago from Ohio on a tenant landlord issue. Someone, a relative of mine, incarcerated, communicating with a woman who from out of state, had a tenant landlord issue, and he put her in contact with me, asked me if I would help her, and I helped her. But yeah, I can. Then I have someone in Nevada I'm helping as well. It's not. It doesn't matter what state it is. Whatever the issue is, you go research that issue. And once you research that, I did a IRS claim for a guy. I was in Tehachapi in 1996. The IRS, they had levied on his on a Porsche that he had. They took it, and on a certificate of deposit, he had it in his mother's name, and they took it. It was $33,000 when they took it. The accumulated interest is up $41,000 when I litigated the issue all the way to the district level, and the district determined that they had to reconsider it. They had to reconsider their decision, and in reconsidering their decision, they reversed themselves.
And so right now you saying that the people that you have helped, and there are how many has walked out of prison as officially back on the street because of you helping them?
Approximately 20 people.
20 people are okay.
Yes. Remember now, this started 40 years ago. I started doing this in 1987. I started litigating. Initially started litigating prison 602. When I actually started litigating in the courts was around 1991. And so from 1991 until 2015, actually until present, it's been about a total of 20 people.
20 people that you have got out of prison. And then just to let you guys know, like I was telling everybody some of my testimony about my brother. I told you guys that I had a brother doing 37, has been in prison for 37 years without the possibility of parole for a murder that he never committed. And Willie has walked side by side with me because I'm dedicated making sure that my brother come home, because my mother fought so hard. And a lot of people start telling me about Willie. Willie is one of the Willie is up there with a lawyer. I mean, Willie knows his stuff like nobody knows his stuff. Listening to Willie, you will just know it's just a lot of things behind the scenes people don't know this man has helped my brother with. He has brought my brother case back into light again, and he can give you just a little bit of insight how he has helped my brother. I just want you to know this man is as knowledgeable in every area of the law. I can tell Willie that this is going on. Willie will have an answer for me the next day of how to fight something or how to deal with something. This man learned all his craft while he was in prison. And when I mean he's well-rounded in the law, I mean he's well-rounded. I know a lot of people talk about people that's been in prison. They be like jailhouse lawyers. This is not the case here. My parents have spent a lot of money trying to help my brother. And believe me, I pondered on it, but I asked around about Willie because I don't take the first advice from somebody. I have to ask around about Willie. An attorney told me about Willie. So Willie is well-rounded in all areas. And when I mean this man is well-rounded in all areas, this man is well-rounded in the law in all areas. And I'm not trying to toot his horn. If you get to know this man and he helped you on anything, Willie is reasonable when you ask him for help. He's a reasonable person to help you with your whatever you need help in. He's knowledgeable, like I said, in every state. But he's going to give you guys a little insight on my brother case and why I'm believing that God is going to bring him home, and why I believe that the reason why Willie is in my life is to help my brother. Willie, can you just give him a little knowledge on my brother case?
Well, I was first start out by saying Darren is innocent. He didn't commit the murder. The person who actually did the shooting has acknowledged in an affidavit that he did the shooting. Darren was in and out of the apartment. It was called, I think they call them the school apartments. This is January 1, 1986. Darren was in and out of the apartment where these individuals have been held captive by several other people. Darren was in and out of the apartment to get keys. The person who actually did the shooting drove a Cadillac. His Cadillac was parked at the Chevron station out there in Paris. The station proprietor had informed Darren that, hey, this Cadillac has to be moved. If it's not moved, I'm going to have it towed. So Darren was trying to get the tire fixed on the Cadillac so that he could get it moved. And so Darren went to the apartment to get the keys from the person who owned it. Darren went back to the station and he got the tire fixed on the Cadillac, and he drove the Cadillac away from the station. The individual who actually did the shooting was in the apartment. The people who had been held captive in the apartment was locked in the trunk of a vehicle and driven to an isolated area off the San Mateo Canyon Road off of I-10. This was a very dark and secluded area. One of the people was driving Darren's truck, and one person was driving a Buick that had been a rental car. The people were locked in the trunk of the rental car. The shooter, who actually did the killing, shot one of the people in the head who was in the trunk. He shot the two people in the back seat several times. One of the persons in the back seat survived. Actually, both people in the back seat survived. But one of the persons in the back seat exited the vehicle after the shooter had left, and the person that was with him after they had left the area, the person who survived the shooting, exited the vehicle and tried to make his way for help. He stumbled across a white kid, and I use the term white kid just to distinguish. He was out there in that area with two girls after watching a movie over in San Bernardino. Back to the Future is the movie that they were watching. This person who he stumbles across in that vehicle became one of the prosecution's key witness. This person said that he met the victim, the person who got shot. He met him at that location off the San Mateo Canyon Road at 7 o'clock. When he met him, the guy stumbled up on him and he put his light on him and seen that he was shot. The shooting takes place between 6:30 and 7, more between probably about 6:40. Well, at 6:40, Darren was at the service station putting the tire on the Cadillac. He couldn't actually be out at the San Mateo Canyon Road at the time the shooting took place. What the prosecutor did is he changed the timeline. He acknowledged that Darren was at the station. He acknowledged that one of the victims met his key witness at 7 o'clock off of the San Mateo Canyon Road. He acknowledged that the victim was there at 7 o'clock. There was just no way Darren could be at that location. And so I'm saying that we have to get that into the court. We have to be able to demonstrate. Go ahead.
Willie, how did the district attorney manipulate the time? Did they have any, what did they have on my brother that give my brother 35 years to life without the possibility of parole? Was there concrete evidence for my brother to be in prison today out of all the stuff that you have read and have done knowledge and have done research, and we have talked to witnesses and got some more affidavits from them? What was the determination of my brother being in prison?
Because one of the victims, out of anger, said that he was there, but he wasn't there. He couldn't have been there. This is what the victim, out of anger, and I understand he could be very angry if someone shoots you and tries to kill you, but it wasn't Darren. Look, again, let me say this. The shooting takes place, and the DA changed the shooting from 6:40. Look, the person who gets shot tells you he gets shot, and he walks about 15 minutes before he meets this guy, the guy named Robert Smith. I'm going to call his name. Robert Smith is the prosecution's witness. He testified at trial that he met the victim at 7 o'clock, that the victim climbed on the hood of his vehicle at 7 o'clock, and he drove the victim down to the hospital. This is at 7. It took the victim about 15 to 20 minutes to walk from the location of the shooting to where Robert Smith was located with the 2 females. And by the time he gets to the hospital, it's close to 7:30. But the prosecutor in his closing argument knows that Darren couldn't be the shooter, couldn't even be at the location at 7 o'clock. Certainly couldn't be there at 6:40 and couldn't be there at 7 because he was at the gas station at 6:40 fixing the tire. He acknowledged that. He acknowledged that in his closing argument that, yes, we acknowledge that Darren was here. So he changed the timeline in his closing argument. He closed the time of the shooting in his closing argument to about 7:20 to 7:30. He changed the time of the shooting by 40 minutes to give Darren, or to allow him to frame Darren for the shooting, to allow him to say that Darren was there. So Darren is alibi, not just alibi, but solidly alibi. There are several witnesses who can actually place, and one of those witnesses is the proprietor of the station, can place Darren at that station. And then Robert Arnold, I'm going to call his name as well. He was one of the guys who testified, and the DA said, yes, Robert Arnold knows his time. He acknowledged that Robert Arnold was with Darren between 5:30 and 10, between 5:30 and 5:50. They were together. They left the station, and Darren went to go see Sam Pritchard. Sam Pritchard is where Darren got the tire from. Sam Pritchard goes back to the station with Darren. He and Darren is the one who ended up fixing the tire, putting the tire on the vehicle. And when they got finished, it was about 6:40. 6:40 is the actual time that the shooting takes place. Darren was at the Chevron station at 6:40. He couldn't be at the San Timoteo Canyon turnoff at 6:40. Someone simply has to go through the record and look at the timeline.
So did the DA fix the time to incriminate my brother? How did he fix the time to say that my brother was at the scene when my brother was not at the scene?
He changed it in his closing argument. He didn't fix it. He focused the jury's attention to his time in the closing argument. Someone had to have forgotten what the evidence said. I don't know how Darren gets convicted.
Okay. And then the person who actually did the shooting, what did he say about my brother? The person who
Darren wasn't even there. Darren wasn't at the scene. The person who actually did the shooting is in prison. He did an affidavit. He's in Corcoran. I prepared that affidavit. I prepared the affidavit based upon the facts. He told me, I talked to him on the phone, and he told me what happened. And I told him I would write an affidavit based upon what he told me. I sent it into the prison through a notary. He got it. He read it. He agreed with it. He signed it and he sent it back out to me. So I have that affidavit. And this affidavit clearly tells you that he did the shooting. He tells you why he did the shooting. And that Darren wasn't involved. He said Darren was involved doing the things that I said, trying to get the tire fixed on the Cadillac. That was Darren's only business in the apartment.
So you're telling me that my brother is innocent?
Absolutely. That's what the evidence says. There was a dirty police back then who threatened and intimidated people, who bullied people and got them to testify the way he wanted them to testify. A sheriff deputy named Frank D. Almond, I think his name was. His last name is D. Almond. I believe his first name was Frank.
And now, Willie, I don't want people to think that I encourage you to say what you're saying. You took the records that I gave you and read every record, and me and you went out and talked to several witnesses, and on my brother's case. So this is nothing that is pre-rehearsed or anything. This is facts, police records, and facts.
This is what I've gleaned from the facts. I don't let people tell me anything. I don't listen to what people have to say. When a person starts trying to tell me what happened, I say, stop. Let me read the record. When I read the record, then we can talk. So what I'm telling people is what I've gotten from the record. And I've talked to people, some of the people who were present, like Robert Arnold and Red and Anthony Durgeon, and the person that did the affidavit stating that he was the actual shooter. But they know he was the shooter. No one ever doubted he was the shooter. The question is not whether he was the shooter, but the question was whether Darren was there, whether Darren participated in the crime, and Darren wasn't there.
Mm-hmm. And so, Willie, just to close up a little bit right now, just to close up, is there any other cases that you will be, are you going to take on any other cases, or are you going to, as you were saying, are you going to just kind of retire and not be litigating, helping people no more? Are you looking at that in the near future? Because I know you're going to walk with me through my brother get out of prison, but is that some of your plans that you plan on doing now?
Well, there's three people who I want to help. Darren is one of them, of course. There's a person, James, and then there's a person, David. All three of those people I've mentioned, I want to make sure that those people get out. So beyond that, if the right person comes along, the circumstances appeal to me, something that I think I need to help on, then I'll get involved. But those three people I'm committed to.
Mm-hmm. Of getting out of prison. Okay, yeah. Willie, is there anything else you'd like to share? Is there anything else anybody would like to ask him in the chat? I will be, if you guys ever want to talk to Willie or anything, cases or anything, or need his legal knowledge, I'm going to drop his email in my community post that you can contact Willie. Willie is a very reasonable person. Willie is for the people. Willie works hard on whatever he does. He really looks through things. He gives his best knowledge. Willie is committed to everything that he does. So I just want to thank Willie for coming on my channel and giving my viewers a little bit of insight about his life and also what he's doing for other people, and also my brother. So Willie, I want to thank you right now. Thank you for being on. Is there anything else you would like to share with the people?
No, that's it. Just God bless and everybody be safe.
Okay. And thank you, Willie, so much. Thank you. And I just want to also, I want to thank this person. I really do, because God said give credit where credit's due. And this is totally off of what the topic of what we're talking about. I just want to really thank Angel Mom. She gave me the most warmest welcome the other day, Friday. And, I was praying about it. I was like, after I got out of church, I was like, Lord, how do I address this lady? How do I tell her that I appreciate everything that she's done? Angel Mom, you are definitely well needed, well rounded. Everybody should have an Angel Mom. Angel Mom is not only a blessing in front of the camera, Angel Mom is a blessing behind the camera. I mean, this lady has really blessed me, and I just want to thank her. And anybody that has not subscribed to Angel Mom channel, please go subscribe to her channel. I'm telling you, Angel Mom is the type of people that people say you need in your life. Angel Mom is one of them people that you need in your life. And I thank you, Angel Mom, for all you do, and I pray for your channel to grow. And I thank everybody for tuning in to this and listening to Willie. And like I always say, sometimes it's not what you want to hear, but it's where you need to be. And Willie is such a well-rounded gentleman that I'm telling you, Willie is so blessed. When you give him something and show him the facts, Willie would take the time and make sure he researched every fact of it and come back to you. He will give you hope in some hopeless situations. So I just thank Willie for working with me on my brother case, because Willie has done a tremendous amount of help for me, and I thank him. And I thank you guys for tuning in, and God bless you guys, and I hope you guys have a blessed day and a blessed night. Please subscribe and hit the like button.